My name is Abigail Hart Gray. I am the head of design at LearnVest, and I like to start things off with a few confessions so we can all be friends. The first thing is that I am a recovered architect. Building architect, that's what I was schooled for, obviously didn't take. The other thing is that I spent almost 10 years in the digital agency space, so I saw a lot of those hands go up during, I think it was Billy's talk. I've been there, I feel for you, keep fighting. And then finally, the thing that's also very important to know about me is I'm a real fixer. I'm almost painfully practical. And so this is really my playbook about how to turn your organization into a design-driven organization. But first, a few little fun facts, or not so fun as the state may be. So the state of America's wallet is really, really scary to me. 76% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, and that includes 30% of people who make six figures. So bad, right? But it gets worse. Half of Americans have less than $10,000 saved for retirement. This is so beyond terrifying to me, I can't even begin to express it. And the worst part of it is 50% of Americans are not prepared for an unexpected expense of just $400. So obviously, America needs help, a lot of help. And so enter LearnVest. LearnVest is redefining the American approach to financial planning. I'm just going to basically read this, sorry. So our planners leverage financial technology to create simple, affordable, and realistic plans for anyone who wants to feel in control of their financial situation and optimistic about the future. Now I get, you probably couldn't hear me before because now I hear it. Okay, so this is what we do. This is what we do day in, day night. It's all about financial planning. That being said, we were acquired almost a year ago today, by Northwestern Mutual. And it's really amazing because they have a business where they create financial plans for people and believe that everybody deserves one, but they're there to sell you the financial products that's going to get your finances in control. We're a little bit different. We sell financial plans, and then we provide digital tools to help keep you on track. But at the heart of both of our companies is financial planning, and that's the thing that is going to solve all of those big issues and the scary numbers that I just presented. All right. So this is about design and the bottom line. This is my love story. This is my career obsession. It started when I owned my own company and I had to figure out how to get people to pay the rates that I thought we deserved, and has continued throughout, right, to prove the impact of design on the bottom line. And a couple of years ago, I went to a conference where I saw John Maeda speak, and he talked about sort of the structural evolution of how designers were viewed, right? So if you look long enough ago, people would design and build something, or really design by not designing it, build it, and then they'd bring designers in at the end to kind of pretty it up. And we all know why that fails, right? Because it's inherent in the way that things are built, right? If the flows aren't good, if the functionality isn't really what users want, it's going to fail. So then the reaction to that was like, okay, let's bring designers in at the beginning and then continue it down the line. This is all stealing from John Maeda. And that's broken too, because you discover things as you go through the process, and you really can't figure everything out at the beginning. There's a process of discovery that's inevitable. And so now the current model is to have design the whole way through, which to a certain degree is awesome. It's definitely improvement, but is it enough? Another thing that I was really struck by, and I bring this article up all the time, is Harvard Business Review did a study over 10 years of design-driven companies, and they found that they outperformed the S&P by 228%. Whew, awesome. They used 6 criteria to evaluate what these companies were, and this really got me thinking. So this is like the ultimate measurability, right? This is dollars and cents, amazing work. So I began to think, how do you define design-driven, right? Because it's not enough to just hire in some designers and ask them to do amazing things for you. You also have to make it a place where they can do the best work of their lives, where they want to stay and grow and evolve. And so I decided to implement my own little discovery process. So I decided to interview some of my favorite designers that I've worked with over the past 16 years that I've been in digital. And I tried to get a good spread. I talked to 12 people. Half were women, half were men. I talked to 5 UXers, 5 visual designers, a strategist, and a general manager. And all of them said the same thing, which was pretty incredible, that all all of their ideas about how to make a great design-driven culture clustered around the idea of team structure, process, and then defining outcomes. So let's hear what they said. And it's pretty simple because they pretty much all said the same thing. So the first thing is that being design-driven or design-led, they just want a seat at the table, an equal seat at the table, somebody to be on the level of leadership with every other stakeholder. So we have CTOs, we have CEOs, we have chief product officers or chief digital officers. We need the same thing for somebody to be there representing design. The next thing that people talked about was this process of launch, learn, iterate, and kind of rinse and repeat. I think there's another dimension to that where you want to spend a little bit of time defining what you're going to do up front. But ultimately, going in this iterative, cyclical fashion gives you the space to be creative, gives you the space to fail, and it's through those failures and those learnings that you really get to the good stuff. Now here's where I sort of differed a bit from the people that I talked to. So about half of the designers that I talked to were like, yeah, design and business, we are best friends. And the other half said, well, actually, I think if you're doing the best thing for the user, you are inherently not doing the best thing for the business. I feel like I might have uncovered some secret Marxists in there. But for me, I don't agree with that. So in my commonalities, the place that I had to kind of break away from my friends and my respected colleagues is around outcomes. Because for me, the magic, the rainbow happens when you take business goals and user expectations and marry that with data. That's where magic, enter Kermit the Frog singing about rainbows. So I want to sort of switch gears. I've got all that in the back of my head, and I've fairly recently joined a company that is small and scrappy and a startup and has always been interested in design that just was bought by a 160-year-old company that is absolutely enormous and did not do lots of design. So how to actually move both of those closer to where we want to be. So I think most of you are designers, so I'll go through this part quick because I wasn't really sure who was going to be here tonight. But the first thing you need to do if you want to become a design-driven organization is just know what designers do and what kinds of designers are out there. And it's up to you, sort of. It sounds like Jamie has one model that works really great for Betterment. It sounds like sort of the larger you go, maybe you get into capability-specific models, which is what we chose to do. But the other thing is to understand if you want to get big results, you got to kind of invest in big design and spend some bucks and like get people who have a little bit been there, done that, not in a jaded way, but just in a I can help you get there kind of way. And then perhaps the most important thing is to match up the chemistry of the people that you're bringing into your organization with the situation within your company right now. Because I'd say maybe 50% of my time is spent educating people about what design does, what design can do, and how to see what happens when you get really good design. And some people just don't want to do that, and I get it, and it's cool, it's just not right for where we are. And then if you're the person doing the hiring, just get ready to be pummeled with questions. Designers like to ask things because they want to know how things work. And that's good, because then they're going to design something that really works for the business. The other thing is accountability. So part of that, as I mentioned, I think designers want to report up into a designer. So a lot of companies maybe don't bring in high-level designers, right? They feel like they can hire people. But if you want to have careers in design, you need to have that person sort of leading the charge, and then everybody needs to hold each other accountable. So these are 5 questions I've been talking about for many, many years. And I ask not just the designers to ask themselves this, but everybody who works with us to keep us on point and make sure we can answer these. So the first is, what's the fucking point? Like, if you're going to spend the time and the energy and the man hours on doing this thing, there has to be a reason, and it better be a good one. And if you're not sure, you need to look at the second question, which is, does this support the vision of what you want your product to be or what you want your company to be? And if it's even questionable, I'd put it on the back burner and go back and redefine. The third is the user going to know what to do? So when you're looking at the design, if you have to explain your interface sucks. So I know there's a lot of great first-time user experiences that make us laugh. They should be completely unnecessary, or else we haven't really done our job as designers. The fourth is it simple and elegant? If there's a question, go back, take stuff out. And even if you have done that, you probably need to go back and ask that again. So I like to beat a dead horse, so ask yourself again. Okay, so this is the playbook section. My mountain is Northwestern Mutual. They're a fantastic company that acquired us about a year ago. But the state of their digital products when we inherited them was not where we want them to be. So my first idea is always pick a stomping ground. It's really scary, as Jamie was mentioned, when the projects get bigger, the tensions get higher. So if you pick a really low stakes stomping ground to show people what design can do, nobody's gonna care. So it's even best if you can pick something where no revenue goes through it, and then see what you can do and build trust that way. So the next part to my playbook on what you gotta do is research really well. We're very lucky, research falls under my group as well. We have 3 researchers to full-time helping us with everything. They're fantastic. The third is measure everything. The key is that you want to be able to show a before and after. So measure everything important, figure out what you're designing towards, and then measure it again afterwards. I think this was talked about in Moneyball. Play Moneyball. And then finally, share the results of what you've done generously. Rinse and repeat. So here's an example from what we've been doing lately. So the first day that I walked in, we had a really interesting staffing model. So it made a lot of sense from a product standpoint and made a lot less sense to me from a design standpoint. So one of the things that we do is we give you insights about what you're doing for your money. So we'd have one designer and one product owner for spending insights for the customer on the web. We'd have a second designer and a second product owner for spending trends for the customer in mobile. We'd have a third designer and a third product owner for spending trends for the planner, for the web, etc. It got messy. Nobody was talking to each other. None of the experiences felt connected, and that was something that we really needed to fix. So we moved to a model where the same user experience and visual design team is designing an experience across all viewers and across all touch points, because we build both for the end user, who's the customer, but also the end user, who's our financial planner. So this is what I inherited day one on the dashboard. This is the Northwestern Mutual customer dashboard, or was. The interesting thing here, if we take a little bit of a closer look, is that I think about 85% of people don't actually see this because they don't have these products. And this just stays like a big, white, sad space. So the page doesn't shrink or anything, it's just blank. It's sad. The other thing is that the things that Northwestern Mutual really wanted you to do at the time were these things right here. And they don't look very clickable to me, and they don't really look very important. And they're in gold, maybe the worst color that you can use on the web if you want somebody to actually be able to read it, especially when you consider the fact that our core audience, minimum age of 45. All right, so what did we do? The way I approach things is there's 3 legs to my stool. It's being data-driven, user-centered, and results borderline obsessive. So when I'm thinking about data, the first bit here, I like to do what I think of as the perfect data triangle, and that includes looking at analytics, doing qualitative studies, but also doing quantitative. So what do we do here? So for here, we did IA research for a new navigation because I didn't know what the difference between financial tools and financial assets was, and I consider myself, at least average intelligence. So if I didn't, a lot of people didn't either. Okay, so we talked to 1,800 people to figure out what a new information architecture would be, and use that to come up with our navigation. Second thing we did was look at the analytics. What are people actually doing on the web? Because what people say they do and what people actually do usually differs. So then we went into our user-centered phase of the project. So here we did design workshops, and we did that with customers, with business owners, with product holders, with engineering, and then a whole slew of designers who were totally new and had no preconceptions about what the dashboard should be. And then the other thing is that as we were developing designs, we did 4 rounds of concept and usability testing. And we ended up we ended up being obsessed with the metrics, which is my thing. So this is where we ended up. This is the new summary that launched at the end of January for Northwestern Mutual customers. If we go in a little bit closer, you'll see, this is a design comp, so of course we have to show all the things that can go wrong. But up here at the top, we've got our actions. These are the things that we want customers to do. We want you to pay your bill. We want you to link accounts so we can give you an accurate picture of your net worth and make sure that your financial rep is giving you the best advice that they possibly can. And we also want you to think in detail about what products you have. Next thing, we want you to know where you stand. How well are you doing? And how are you spending your money? So we're giving you a little bit of feedback about what you're doing with your money now and maybe where you need to go in the future. Next, of course, we want you to be able to review all the important information about all of your Northwestern Mutual products. And then finally, we want to make it really easy for you to connect to your financial rep. And there's a lot of reasons for that. You know, a financial plan is fantastic, but things change in life. You might have a kid, you might have just gotten married, maybe not in that order, and you may want to replan. And then finally, you have the ability to pay your bill. You might think, well, why is that at the bottom? Because if they don't get paid, then you don't get paid. Fair point. But if we go back all the way to the top, we've got your billing information right here, and if you've already paid, it's showing you, or else it just takes you right to the place where you can pay your bill. So that's why we made that choice. So let's talk about some numbers. These are all from the first 6 weeks. So client adoption went up by 29%. We saw an 18% reduction in bounce rate, a 97% increase in account aggregation, which you're like, why is that so important? That's because that gives us all the financial information to make people's plans and make them meaningful. So that's really important to us. And then finally, the unique visitors went up by 11%. And that's important, and actually a lot when you think about the fact that nobody wants to think about their life insurance very often. So if people are going more often, it's actually kind of a big deal. So that kind of got people excited. We started sharing numbers. So then we decided to do more. So a few weeks ago, we launched a bunch of other stuff. So this is the accounts area. We've really simplified that nav that we had before, and we've opened up our second tab, which is accounts. So now you can easily add your accounts. Your accounts look very beautiful. It's easy to find transactions. You can categorize them. You can filter them. You can look for them by date. You can look at them individually. You can look at them separate. It's really cool stuff. And this has just been launched to some friends and family, so about 5,000 people at this point. But when we look at the overall numbers, I get really excited. So client adoption is up an additional 27% on top of what we were talking about before. Account aggregation has gone up an additional 104%. Bounce rate is down 44%, and the weekly unique visitors is up another 10%. So pretty excited about this, and this is just the friends and family launch, so now I'm really excited because May 25th, if any of you are Northwestern Mutual customers, you're guaranteed to get this, and it's going to be really good. So my overall strategy is to start small, be data obsessed, and then create some movement, and that will create a movement. Thanks.
Thank you very much. That was awesome. So Q&A. Oh, back there. All right, I'll be there in a second.
Excellent talk. So
thanks.
I just had a quick question. Was there any style guide that needed to be set for the new kind of UI changes that we're making to ensure that anything you guys do moving forward is consistent with your current changes?
That is a great question. That's a good point. Yeah, so we've actually been developing a living style guide that's got a code base for all repeatable elements in the UI. One of the tricky things, Northwestern Mutual did a brand refresh a couple of years ago, but it was very much corporate and print. It was nothing about digital. And, you know, like I mentioned before, gold is like death to usability and ADA compliance. So we had to find a way to kind of work with the brand, but maybe work around it a little bit. So we've been creating that as we go, and we try to stay maybe like 2 or 3 steps ahead with the UI toolkit versus what we're doing in the actual interfaces, but it's a work in progress. We're parallel pathing. I think so.
What percentage of your work focuses on client-facing interfaces versus internal, like advisor-facing tools?
I think right now it's probably 60% end user client facing and 40% planner facing or financial rep facing. There's a lot in both because when you think about all the services to support financial planning, insurance, investment products, there's a lot there too.
So one of the questions I have is, so you were working, so since it's part of the Western Mutual, you're working via management team who is kind of coming from like older kind of paradigm of design. So do they ever like try to move your career and like, ask you questions like why are you getting rid of time charts, why are you getting rid of all these things, and how do you deal with it?
They didn't really have an older way of looking at design. They just didn't look at design. That being said, we're really gifted that they were invested and very trusting. I think one of the benefits of being so obsessed with having data inputs into making design decisions is it takes away the subjectiveness. So, you know, we had somebody who we were working with in our Scrum team asking about why, you know, we were making some splits, taking out accounts from financial tools, which is financial assets, which is now insurance and investments, because those are words people understand. And they got frustrated and they threw their hands up and they said, well, you know, why are we doing this? Why can't we just keep it the same way and just change the name at the top? And the great thing is I could say, well, we talked to 1,800 customers, and 1,800 people, which I think is statistically significant, said that they wanted it this way. So then, it's not that I care. I don't care. I care that our customers told us that, and then it becomes my job to fulfill on that promise. If we're going to bother to do the research, it becomes sort of irrefutable. There's no way to dispute that. You do what's right. You're doing what's right for your customers.
When you're hiring, what are the like 1, 2, 3 things that you look at when you do a new job application?
I mean, the first, second, and third thing I look at is the portfolio. But beyond that, what I'm looking for people who are fearless brainstormers, people who know kind of when to be super innovative and when to follow patterns, and people who are excited about kind of like being on this mission. I mean, the idea of transforming America's wallet, I think, is really meaningful to everybody at LearnVest. I've not met a single person there yet who didn't really connect with the mission. So I think if you don't have passion for that, you're probably not right for our team. Thanks.
I keep seeing that a lot of designers are expected to fulfill hybrid roles, such as coding and data science. Is that the same expectation at your company?
No, I'd rather have you do one thing really amazingly well than do a lot of things. Meh.
All right, any other questions?
Hello again.
Hi.
Anything interesting you can share from designing for your base where the minimum age is 45, did you say?
For Northwestern Mutual, yeah. LearnVest's target audience is a lot younger. Looking like lots of you. What can I share with you? Yeah, some things they really don't know that you would expect. I'll give you an example because, you know, we fail. It's cool. We fail. We learn. So originally when we did the new nav, we put the logout button under the like Hi Client menu in the upper right-hand corner, and we got a lot of negative feedback on that people couldn't find it. Now the fascinating thing about that feedback was the feedback link is under that menu right next to the logout button. But people have been clicking that link and telling me they can't find it, so we decided to keep, you know, log out right there as well, but also pull it out and make it its own separate button, because it's just not worth the pain for our users.
I think we'll call you. Thank you.